My name is Roman Djindjihashvili, and we want to discuss actually how to conduct your opening and what the opening should be based on and how we can make our own rules for the opening. And my guest today, our guest, is a player that knows a little bit about openings, maybe even a lot, world champion Anatoly Karpov.
Oh. So we will talk about general principles, general rules, how to develop chess game. And now we have starting position, and you can see that not so many possibilities you have here. Only knights can jump over the pawns to c3, a3, g1, and h3. Otherwise, you must start the game with the pawns, which is a normal way. So, the general principle is first moves you make with the pawns or with the knight. Knight f3. You develop knight and you attack the pawn.
So, same rule should apply to me too. Right now, I'm seeing that my pawn is under attack. And if I use the same rule, then I can see that I need to protect my pawn. This is first things first. It's most important part. Now, I can protect it with the pawn, but again, I don't like it because somehow I suffocate my own bishop. What I think would be the best way to protect this pawn and develop minor piece at the same time. Knight to c6.
Knight to c6, and then, in theory, we developed knight, and then better to develop bishop, and the opening will be called Spanish game if we bring bishop to b5.
Ruy Lopez, in other words, Spanish or Ruy Lopez.
Or Ruy Lopez, yes. Yeah. Ruy Lopez. So the idea is we attack knight, which is protecting pawn on e5.
That my knight was protecting my pawn, so he attacks my knight. So he's still after my pawn.
And then we prepared short castle. This is very important because when we bring our king out of the center, we can make many moves with pawns. Then we are not afraid of checks, and so this is one of the general rule. When you become more experienced players, maybe you keep your king in the center, just having opportunity to make long castle or short castle. But now the general rule to get out of the center your king as quick as possible.
So my problem here is I have to safeguard my pawn. And how am I going to do this? So I have to protect this pawn either by pushing this pawn, which is not really a great idea for the same reason I didn't want to play this pawn to d6 on a previous move. But how else can I protect my pawn? Oh, I can play my knight out and attack his own pawn. This is one option which I can consider. The other option and the main theoretical move is a6, but this is more subtle thing because as we see, my pawn is not really in danger because
so first I want to say that chess theory was progressing, and in the last century people played d6, and so this was Steinitz defense. Right. The first world champion Steinitz liked this very much, and later theory decided that a6 is more active from black side, and white cannot win a pawn because when bishop takes on c6, then d takes c6. And if knight takes on e5,
now I can get his pawn on e4 by attacking knight and the pawn simultaneously. And since he has to save his knight, I'm going to get his pawn.
Yes, and then, so this is double threat, and white must retreat knight to f3 or d3, and queen takes on e4 with check, and so there is no any sense to choose such variation. That's why
white, yeah.
After a6, modern theory says bishop a4 is the strongest continuation. But also bishop takes c6 is possible, and after d takes c6, castle. This is the continuation which Fischer made very fashionable, and he won several beautiful games. But this is Ray Lopez, and we shall talk about this opening one of our next series. Now we come back to the openings which I started to learn when I was a beginner and how I learned chess. And so in this position, white has several opportunities. And according to the old time, the best would be considered d4, which is Scotland's, or
Scotch gambit, I think.
Yes.
It's Scotch game. So I have to take the pawn.
You have to take a pawn, and then there is gambits with c3 or knight takes d4. And so we can see now that white has some space. Both bishops are developed or prepared to be developed. Both bishops are open. White has active e4 pawn, but now black is on move, and it means that for this active pawn, black has chance to develop the second piece one move earlier.
Either bishop to c5 or knight to f6. Both moves, they develop minor piece, which seem to be the right thing to do here.
Yes, so this is logical, and I think according to our plan, how to present the openings, bishop c5 is more logical, right? This is
okay. So I play bishop c5.
Black tries not only to develop a piece, but also to counterattack. And so after bishop c5, black is attacking knight
d4, so
d4,
attacking twice, and white is protecting only once.
Only once. That's why black is expecting next move to protect knight or to get somewhere with this knight. And so the old style how to play would be just to gain tempo back with knight b3.
Now my bishop is hanging, so I cannot just continue development, because this would be the right thing to do according to the plan, but I cannot just drop my bishop. So I have to retreat my bishop. Why? Of course I can retreat this way, but I don't want to take from active position my bishop and put it on a passive position. So I have to try to keep it on a longer diagonal. So I have to play bishop b6, which is the best move, probably.
Yes, clear. And then I continue my plan. I play knight c3. I develop knight, and I want to bring it to d5 to attack bishop on b6, and also to gain some space.
Now, my plan should be, again, knight to f6. I have to continue development, or d6 is kind of also developing move because opens the bishop. So suppose I play same knight to f6.
Knight to f6, and now what we can do? We can see that bishop on b6 is very strong, and we can attack this bishop with two ways. Just with knight to d5, and then we must consider pawn on e4 is not protected. Probably this is not very important because then we have pin. But another way, we can see that if we play a4, then we start to disturb this bishop.
Oh, now
because
I
there is
see.
threat a5, and then we just capture the bishop.
Now I see that after a5, my bishop will have no square to retreat. So I have to prepare square a7 to retreat in case I am attacked next move. I have to play either a6 to prepare for my bishop another square, or play a5, which prepares the same square and stops white's a pawn from further advancement.
And then now white has opportunity to develop bishop, which is necessary just to prepare way for the king. And so active position is on c4, bishop c4.
And I have to continue my development either by playing d6, opening position for my bishop, or just castling. So if I play here d6, maybe we can assess the position, who is better developed and who has big advantage here.
I cannot say any side has big advantage. So white has a little more active position because e pawn is stronger than d from black side, and e pawn controls two center squares f5 and d5, and d6 only one square e5. My bishop is almost the same strong as the black bishop on b6. They have the same diagonal, but we have opportunity later to pin the knight on f6, and black has no this opportunity because our knight on b3. And so this is just position for middle game, and everything will be decided in the middle game after castling both sides, castle and castle.
I think the reason here why neither side has a serious advantage because neither side made serious mistakes. I don't think neither side made any mistakes. Neither side dropped any material or developed piece incorrectly. And if we take minor pieces, every one of our developed pieces, they're active, black and white. I think that's why we should assess this position maybe as a slight advantage for white, which is normal for some theoretical variations, and close to equality.
Yes, and then now we can see what happens if one of the side does not play according to plan. So they change their mind almost every move. So this could be example in the open game, like e4, e5. So white continue, knight f3, and then black is not sure if they are strong or not, and so they want to play passive. They play d6.
And move d6. Interestingly, I want to tell you that when I was chess expert, I thought I knew all these general rules we went through, and I thought, oh, now I'm a chess expert and I'm strong enough to recognize the exceptions. And I said, let me make some exceptions from general rules, because I will control the rules and make some exceptions as I wish. And interestingly, that I was punished every time. If I played more or less reasonable player, I was punished every time. So one of the possible ways to get punished, we're going to be talking about now. So I'm not playing the normal developing knight move, but I'm playing d6, protecting, and violation 1. I'm blocking my own bishop.
And so the best move is considered now d4. Just immediately attack the center and to get space. But I want to be a little bit tricky. Anyway, I believe that I need to develop knight. And so I change the order of moves. Because black cannot stop my d4 action. And so I play knight c3 now.
If I try to stop him from playing d4 by playing c5, I don't think it's a very good idea.
Yes, because then I developed two knights already, two minor pieces. Black didn't develop any, so it means my advantage is very big now in development, and also another point, the structure. Of course, black prevented attack in the center, d4, but black made weak squares, white weak squares, and so I developed my bishop to c4, and you see that white diagonal is very dangerous now.
I already don't like it, because now my opponent has 3 minor pieces developed and I have none. So this, even if I'm a weak player, I should recognize that as being a bad move.
Right.
So, and I am playing, my move would be, in this case, just let me, since I failed to develop my bishop on c5, I would say, wait, maybe I develop my bishop on g7. And I play g6. So no consistency. I play d6 first, violation 1, g6, violation 2, because this bishop should be developed the shortest possible way. I'm playing g6. I want to fianchetto my bishop.
Yes, and then, so I can get advantage with simple d4. But then I think, so maybe first I develop my bishop. And I put it on active position, bishop c4.
So my opponent didn't make any mistakes. He follows the basic principles of developing every piece on most active position. And here, my last move was g6, trying to fianchetto bishop. Now, I'm not consistent. I'm not playing bishop g7. That means I play without a plan. Now I realize that I want to develop my pieces. And if I want to develop my knight to f6, I see, wait a minute, it may not be good, because then my opponent plays knight g5, and I have no ways of protecting my f7 pawn. Oh, let me then pin his knight. There is a trick. I put my bishop on g4, and if my opponent moves the knight, then I can take his queen.
Yeah, and then there is very elegant combination, which is known like legal mate. Still, I take with the knight, pawn on e5, and I take bishop, but I open my queen.
I think this is the kind of way, this is one of the ways to be punished, the way I'm getting punished now, that for all my inconsistency and violating basic principles of opening developments. So now, if I take this knight,
then white takes simply
and
bishop, and they have
I
pawn
just
up.
lost a pawn, and I'm still behind in development. But obviously, I played bishop here because I wanted to pin my opponent's knight. So, and if I take my opponent's queen, then what happens is...
Then bishop takes on f7, check.
And here, regardless how strong of a chess player I am, I can't find more than
one move. And then knight comes to d5. And then you can see that this is mate.
I got mated.
In the center. Even black has queen up.
We played like a 6-7 moves and I got checkmated. Why? Because I made so many mistakes in the opening. So it turned out that I made three moves with pawns when my opponent made only one. The other moves, the 2 extra moves I made with pawns, he was developing his minor pieces. And this is the outcome, logical outcome of my mistakes.